Imagine pressing rewind on your own childhood, stopping at 13 and realizing the rest of the tape is blank. That's what you face when you step into the life of Mary Day. You may think you know vanished child stories, but Mary's isn't just about a disappearance. It morphs into a riddle about identity, memory, and how far a family will stretch to keep secrets buried. Stay with me, because each turn of this tale invites you to question what you'd believe if the person knocking on your door swore they were the daughter you lost decades ago. Picture Seaside, California, in the early 80s. It's not a postcard beach town, not yet. Navy families drift in and out. Small houses lean into sea fog, and kids pedal bikes down cracked sidewalks because there isn't much else to do. 13-year-old Mary Day moves here in 1981 with her mother Charlotte and her stepfather, a Navy man named William Hoole. Her two younger sisters, Kathy and Sherry, share the cramped bedrooms, the hand-me-down clothes, and the uneasy pause that shivers through the house when the adults start arguing. You sense the tension the moment you imagine stepping across the threshold. Raised voices, clinking bottles, careful footsteps so no one notices you breathing too hard. Mary isn't a shrinking violet, though. Neighbors remember a girl who laughed loud, flashed a quick grin, and told wild stories that made the younger kids tag along. She was small, wiry, a tomboy with scrapes on her knees and a knack for turning cardboard into imaginary castles. Yet at school, she often fell asleep at her desk. Teachers noted bruises hidden under long sleeves. When they called home, Charlotte assured them Mary was simply clumsy. You can almost hear the phone receiver settling back into place. The quiet that follows when an adult chooses to accept a convenient answer because digging deeper might get messy. One June night in 1981, the messy arrives anyway. Kathy and Sherry whisper that Mary argued with her stepfather. He'd been drinking. The argument switched off like a bad bulb, and everything after that fades into fog. The next morning, Mary is gone. No packed bag on the floor, no goodbye note. Nothing but an empty bed and a mother who tells her two remaining daughters their sister has run away. You might expect police cars, flyers, maybe dogs sniffing through dunes. Instead, silence falls. Charlotte never files a missing person report. Military relocation soon whisks the family to Hawaii, leaving Seaside and Mary behind like a closed chapter no one wants shelved in plain sight. Time has a way of smoothing rough edges, yet it never quite polishes Mary's memory out of Kathy's mind. Picture her as a teenager lying awake, replaying that night and wondering if runaway really makes sense. She recalls Mary had no money, no extra clothes, no friend waiting with an open window. Years later, when Kathy joins the army, she requests a background check and discovers no record of her sister after that June evening. It's as if Mary's name evaporated. Now fast forward to 1999. You're with two Seaside detectives assigned to clear old files. They stumble on a note from social services asking about Mary Day. Shock ripples through the precinct because no detective ever handled the case. It had slipped entirely through the cracks. The new team contacts Charlotte, now living in North Carolina with William, and asks the obvious. Why didn't you report your daughter missing? Charlotte claims Mary called from a payphone weeks after vanishing, saying she was fine and living with friends. The detectives hear the words, yet they sense something else curling beneath them. They drive cross-country to interview the family. Inside the house, they spot family photos carefully arranged, but none of Mary after age 13. When asked, Charlotte says she threw those pictures out. You feel your stomach tighten the same way the detectives did. Kathy and Sherry, both adults now, gather at the table. They tell how William punished them with military precision, how Mary always seemed worst off, and how they believed something terrible happened that night. Sherry mentions hearing muffled screams, a back door, and then silence. Stories overlap but never lock into place. It's like assembling a jigsaw, only to realize some pieces were soaked in rain and warped out of shape. With no body, the detectives rely on science. Ground-penetrating radar scans the Seaside backyard where a dog once unearthed children's shoes, Charlotte claimed belonged to Mary. Soil samples reveal nothing conclusive. The case files stay open, but leads dry up. Years drag on. You might think the story cools to room temperature, an unsolved mystery destined for a dusty shelf. And then, just when you settle in, the doorbell rings. It's 2002. A patrol officer pulls over a woman in Arizona for an expired registration. She offers the name Mary Day. Her license looks new, her social security number freshly issued. The officer runs a routine check, and up pops the missing child notice from 1981. Imagine that moment. A dusty roadside, flashing lights painting the desert, and a woman in her 30s claiming to be the girl who vanished at 13. Detectives fly out instantly. You listen as they describe meeting a slight woman with cropped hair, chain smoking while cradling a tiny dog named Lady. She remembers fragments, living in Seaside, fighting with William, blacking out, then waking up on a bus headed east. The next years, she says, blurred through foster homes, hitchhiking, and odd jobs under fake names. She shows a scar on her foot, the same foot Mary injured as a child. She recalls household details no newspaper ever printed, like the brand of cereal Kathy despised and the way Charlotte pronounced the word syrup. Yet her accent feels off, her posture strangely stiff, and the sisters, now seated across from her, exchange unsettled glances. Would you believe your own flesh and blood if she felt both familiar and foreign at once? DNA seems like the perfect referee, doesn't it? A quick swab, some lab magic, an answer in black and white. Samples from Kathy and Sherry travel to the lab alongside the Arizona woman's. Weeks tick by. Reporters circle. You hold your breath with everyone else. Then the call comes. 99.9% match. The test says she is Mary Day. Facts should settle doubts, but instead they sprout new ones. How does someone live invisible for almost 20 years? Why does she stumble over birthdays, yet recite the serial number of her childhood bicycle? How does she panic at the sight of a Navy uniform, but shrug when shown a photo of her favorite childhood dog? The recreated family tries therapy, Sunday dinners, and cautious laughter, yet cracks remain. Charlotte clings to Mary, perhaps hungry for public absolution. William, stoic during interviews, avoids cameras. Kathy keeps a notebook, logging every odd statement her sister makes, hoping patterns will emerge. Sherry swings between fierce protection and private suspicion. You can feel the emotional whiplash each gathering brings. Some theorize identity theft. Could this woman research a cold case, memorize details, and fool a family? Skeptics lean on the timeline. Mary's social security number was reissued only months before the traffic stop. They point to inconsistent memories, her initial inability to recall her exact birthday, and the convenient way she appeared just as attention on the case ramped up. When challenged, Mary shrugs, lights another cigarette, and says trauma scrambles time. You want to choose a side, but the ground won't stay still long enough. Others believe a darker scenario. Mary endured something unspeakable the night she vanished, escaped, and spent years off the grid because she feared being dragged back. Dissociative amnesia, psychologists explain, can fracture memory like a dropped mirror, leaving slivers sharp enough to cut yet too jagged to reassemble. In therapy sessions, Mary flinches at footsteps behind her, startles at raised voices, and tears up over lullabies she can't place. The body remembers, even when the mind misfiles the paperwork. A private investigator digs into shelters, juvenile records, hospital admissions across several states. Bits of a puzzle surface. A teen Jane Doe, matching Mary's description treated in Alabama in 1983. A runaway arrested under the name Marlene in Florida, same birth year. Records are partial, photos missing, fingerprints never taken. It's like tracking a ghost through smoke. While the world debates, Mary tries living a normal life in North Carolina. She works at a diner, handing out coffee refills with a polite smile that never quite reaches her eyes. Regulars notice she folds tips into exact squares, lines them up left to right, smallest bill to largest. Structure calms her, she says. When customers ask about her past, she claims she grew up all over and changes the subject. You can't blame her for craving a blank slate, but gossip has long arms. Television crews show up offering primetime slots. One show airs a 2-hour special where experts poke holes in her story while others defend her. Ratings climb. Strangers mail letters, some welcoming her back, others accusing her of con artistry. Mary reads them late at night, then burns them in a chipped metal bowl on the porch, watching the ash curl upward like tiny grey moths. Kathy, meanwhile, keeps searching for final proof. She requests the raw DNA data, hoping maybe there's been a lab mix-up. When scientists confirm again that the match is solid, Kathy's skepticism turns inward. She wonders if her own memory betrayed her. Trauma can forge false certainty after all. She apologizes to Mary one evening, voice trembling. The sisters hug, yet the camera crew catches Mary's face over Kathy's shoulder, eyes open, expression unreadable. The moment goes viral, spawning amateur forums where users blow the still frame up to absurd pixels, hunting for a smirk or a tear that might validate their pet theories. What about stepfather William? He dies in 2005, taking whatever he knew to the grave. At the funeral, Mary stands graveside in a simple black dress. No tears, just an unfathomable gaze at the casket. Reporters later note she never uttered the word dad that day. Charlotte weeps openly, clutching Mary's hand, perhaps afraid her daughter might vanish again, now that the man who loomed large in every version of the story is gone. Investigators close the missing person file, but keep their personal files open in case new evidence surfaces. Cold case conferences occasionally resurrect the debate, each time drawing fresh listeners who fall down the rabbit hole. You're one of them now. You've walked the timeline, weighed the tests, listened to the shaky memories and the flat facts. Maybe you lean toward identity theft, maybe toward battered survival, or maybe you accept the uneasy place in between where truth often lives. So what does Mary Day's saga leave you with as you head back to your own life? First, missing doesn't always mean gone. People can slip between bureaucratic cracks and still breathe, still dream, still reinvent themselves. Second, DNA can prove biology, but it can't untangle the mystery of who a person truly is inside. Third, families carry knots only they can loosen, and sometimes not even science's sharpest blade can cut through. As you pour your next cup of coffee, the thought lingers. If someone you lost long ago walked through your door tonight, would your heart recognize them faster than your eyes? Or would doubt lay tiny tripwires across every hello? Keep that question close. because Mary Day's story reminds you that identity isn't just a name, it's the fragile bridge between memory and belief. Whether she is the real Mary or a master of borrowed past, the riddle endures, whispering through late-night talk shows and family circles alike. And maybe that's the biggest takeaway. Some stories refuse tidy endings because their power lives in the questions they leave behind, nudging you to wonder how well you know the people you love and how well you know yourself.